Hello, beautiful homemakers. We are continuing with the original 1922 Fascinating Womanhood pamphlets. We're in pamphlet 4, chapter 7. We had just discussed the family darling in the last video. Now, if you haven't been with us for some time, you might have thought that the family darling was manipulative or even stinky spoiled. But you have to remember that our darling girl had been playing the game outlined in videos 24 and 25 and had endeared herself to her family. She gave her time, attention, and kind words that uplifted her family. Remember how she treated her younger brother regarding his kite? If her mother had made her cookies to take to a party, she wouldn't have waited for her mom to say, "Did the cookies I baked go over well with your friends?" No, our darling girl is thoughtful. She would have announced to her mother upon walking into the house, "Your cookies were a hit. Thank you for baking them for me." She had changed her character to become cheerful and attentive. She asks people meaningful questions, and she listens to their answers. She has no ulterior motives except friendship. So let me reread a few sentences from the last subheading called "The Keynote of Her Fascination." Her very expectation that men are always able to help her, that they are so much more capable of doing things than she, is a most flattering and agreeable thing to the men themselves, especially since it indicates her supreme confidence and belief in their manly ability to meet any requirement in every occasion. And when we are dating, this is how we treat men. And yet, oftentimes when we get married, we take control. I'll take care of the bills. I'll take care of figuring out what phone plan we should be on. I'll do your clothes shopping for you. I want it done this way, so just let me handle it. And that results in what is called the superior wife syndrome. And Carin Rubenstein wrote a book on it called The Superior Wife Syndrome: Why Women Do Everything So Well and Why, for the sake of our marriages, we've got to stop. Give up control and return to intimacy. Now, normally I wouldn't be reading things twice, but sometimes we need to hear things more than one time. Actually, I'm going to read a few pages more than I did in the last video. This goes through about 200 pages of women's complaints. And this is what Elizabeth says on page 54. Not thrilled about having to make all the decisions, Elizabeth nevertheless believes that she is the one who is best at it. Kim, 48, an accountant with 3 children, is not happy about her own situation either. "I'm tired of being the one who makes most of the decisions about everything. I nag him to make decisions, hopefully thoughtful decisions, but I'm usually the one who makes up making all of the big and many of the small decisions, with no input from him. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only adult in the house. I'd really, really like him to take charge, at least once in a while." Yet this woman is such a liar. Obviously, whatever decision he makes, she's going to be unhappy with. Once he starts leading, she still won't be happy. Somehow, though, we have morphed into our current roles, me deciding and him not. That is a case of a man who has given up and said, "Whatever, do it your way, suffer the consequences." She belittles him. She probably tells him that he makes the bed wrong, that he's made wrong decisions, so he's given up. Here's another woman, Adela. "I clean the house, make dinner, go to work, feed and bathe the baby. Sometimes I feel like I'm drowning, but if it were up to my husband, things just wouldn't get done," she concludes. She longs to be rescued from the isolation of her superiority, but once she gets that strong man, she won't let him lead. If she's feeling overburdened by feeding and bathing the baby and cleaning the house and taking care of herself and making dinner, then she needs to stop going to work, live on what her husband makes. Here's another woman, Maria. She calls herself the boss of the family. Page 55. Since I am more verbal than my husband, and I am not afraid of confrontation, I have found myself in the position of the decision-maker of my family. It is only when I began raising my 4 children that I had to become proactive in many areas, such as finding daycare, making doctor's appointments, arranging for music lessons, and other things. It is clear who rules the roost in this house. I most certainly do wish that my husband would step out of his box and try to be more engaged. All I can think is, liar. But the kids see me as the one who is the decision-maker, not their dad. Let's face it, she wants it that way. It says, many decision-making superior wives like Maria wish the situation weren't so lopsided, but they feel they've fallen into an unbreakable habit. My husband has some input, but he feels too stressed to make any of the final decisions, said Carly. Well, maybe he likes more input. Maybe he doesn't make split-second decisions. Maybe he likes to do research. Maybe he likes to talk with others about it. Maybe he likes to give things time to see if they'll resolve on their own. Unfortunately, the longer I take charge and the more complex our lives become, the harder it is to let go of these roles. When he feels unsure about a task or is less competent, he relies on me to get it done. This is extremely frustrating and very unfair. Superior wives decide. All you have to do is step back and, let him make the decision. Let's jump to page 151. This is what men think about their wives. She always tells me what to do and how I can do it better. This is another husband. My wife nags like an overbearing boss instead of a partner. She is a real complainer, very picky, moody, rarely satisfied, no sense of humor. It's just that she's so judgmental about whatever is relevant or not. She nags me about not reading my Bible daily, says another. She nags me because I don't know the difference between a dish-drying towel and a hand-drying towel, or the difference between a dust rag and a glass-cleaning rag. To me, a towel is a towel and a rag is a rag. Now, let's jump over to page 181. Each nags the other about earning more money, working fewer hours, having more intimacy time, losing weight, cooking, and spending too much time on the computer. In this small way, then, gender roles almost converge, at least as far as the nagging is concerned. And then back to what I read last time on page 241 and 242. Helene is speaking. Neither of us gets upset if one does a little more, because we want to, and not because we have to. And we appreciate even the smallest things. Helene is blissfully happy with her marriage and her intimate life, and she can't imagine that it will ever change, even after she has children. She's thankful, she's joyful, she's contented, she's living on his income, she's thanking him for every little thing. And I'm continuing with the book. Listen to these wives long enough, and they begin to sound so sappy and sentimental, it's as if they're living in some kind of marital fairy tale, a wifely Disneyland. Indeed, to many superior wives, such a marriage seems a near impossibility, one that's too good, too perfect to be true. Still, non-superior wives are real, and although they are in the minority, they are a powerful and exemplary group. They are potential role models for superior wives everywhere, shining possibilities of what could and should be. And that is what Fascinating Womanhood is all about. Now I'm going to go back to Pamphlet 4, Chapter 7, and Read a few more sentences from the keynote of her fascination. Her method requires that she use every occasion to show her tenderness, timidity, daintiness, delicacy, helplessness, fear, and dependence upon man for guidance, protection, and care. Did those superior wives have any of those characteristics? Maybe they did when dating. They probably did. And they quickly lost it when they felt that they had to make control. They weren't allowing their husband to learn as they went. To learn that, oh, that was a mistake to turn there. To learn that, oh, I shouldn't have used that pan because I burned it. To get the towels dirty with grease and realize, oh, that won't come out of a yellow towel. And so they just take over everything. She shows these qualities not only in her actions, but in her girlish apparel, her feminine dress, her eager voice, pleasant, joyful, and her bird-like manner, flittering around doing domestic duties. She is so contented to be thus dependent, so happy when he gives her his protection, or grants her whimsical desires, like when she says, I am craving ice cream with blah 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 on it. And he gets on the internet and he looks up a very special ice cream place, and the next time they're out, he takes her there. And she said, why are you taking me here? Well, you said you were craving an ice cream sundae with blah 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 on it. Okay, she's so happy when he gives her his protection or grants her whimsical desires that a man can conceive of no greater joy than to keep on giving and granting these things to her forever. When no man is around, she may be quite capable of taking care of herself, but she will never show her capability in the presence of masculine eyes. She will never take on the man's role. It never occurs to her, however, that this helplessness is mere pretense, that she is merely acting up for a man, as she conceives it. Such acting is what is expected of woman. The pretense has become so habitual, so instinctive, that it is practically unconscious. It is just a playful coquettishness that can in no wise be reprehensible. She is only obeying her instincts. We discussed also how when you want to give something back to your man, you cannot say, I can't, in a harsh voice, or I need you to do this, in a whiny voice, or I need your help, when it's obvious you don't need his help. You've been doing it all along by yourself. When you want his help, you say, I find that I can no longer do this comfortably. Will you please take this burden from my shoulders? If you can't reach something from a shelf, of course you can go get a step stool. But if he is walking by, don't get him up off the couch. But if he is walking by, then you give a little childlike pout. I need you to reach this item for me, please. You are not to be an annoying prima donna with a whine in your voice. No whining. You're not to be a drama queen. You just be a little bit more like Marilyn. You do a bird-like movement of cocking your head to one side, looking up with your eyes, and in a pleasant voice say, will you please get this down for me? Now, another thing I used to do after I was married is I would pay the bill because I was in charge of our money. After a while, I realized, I don't like this. It's not very date-like when I'm paying the bill. I kindly told him before we left one time, do you have your glasses? Here's cash for our dinner. I want you to pay. But sometimes he couldn't read the ticket. The messy handwriting. And so he would get the bill ready. He would do the math in his head on tip, etc. And then he'd say, I think I need to leave $54. Will you look it over and make sure I added that up correctly? And that is totally fine. But then, especially if you have to get up to pay your check, which is rare, but it sometimes happens, then he should be the one doing that. And as I mentioned last time, if you have to pick up a tray with your food or drinks, he's the one that needs to be doing that, not you, unless it takes two people, and there are no children to send with him. Same with taking the trash. You're not to be the one cleaning up the table. You have your children do it, and your husband guiding them in it. You can also say to him, I really appreciate it when you open my car door. Now, if he doesn't do it, you don't nag or whine. You just wait. And then when he gets into his side, you get into your side. Occasionally, he will remember, oh, she wanted the car door opened. And then he'll go back around. And eventually, he'll probably get into the habit, especially if when you're walking towards the car, the passenger side door, you're heading to that. They tend to forget more when they are headed for the driving door. And remember, when he opens that car door, right before you step in, right before you sit down, you lean over that window and you give him a kiss. You can do the same thing about helping you on and off with your coat. One more thing I want to cover for single women. I used to always believe that on the dates, men pay. I would have never dreamed of offering to pay. I know Micah Meyer in her book says you should always offer to pay. And then if he doesn't pay, well, you don't want a boyfriend like that. But I have actually changed my mind because of casual dating culture and the casual hookup culture. I now believe that on a first date, you should not let a man pay. And the reason I feel this way is because too many women are using men, and it's unfair to the man. And the second reason, which is even more important than the first, is because it can create a you owe me situation. So when you go on a first date, you need to bring cash, and you need to have 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s, because you want to give him exact change that you have figured up in your mind what your half is, plus some of the tax, plus some of the tip. You don't say, may I pay my share? Or may I pay for half? You don't do any of that. You just hand him your money. You don't say anything. As he's looking at the bill, even if he says, oh, no, my treat, you say, no, I'm more comfortable paying for myself, but thank you, I've had a lovely time. Especially if you really don't want to see him again. However, this might backfire if he is very traditional, and if you insist on paying, he might say, oh, she's not grateful, and the kind of girl I want wouldn't refuse to have a man pay for dinner. So you will have to judge the situation, but it's best to be prepared. The other thing is, if he does call you for a second date, and you were kind of iffy about the first date, be sure to spend time talking with him on the phone before a second date. Not texting, but actual talking. I know on the first date with my husband, he couldn't add up the bill. He was so nervous, trying to get the tip right. And I didn't realize that he was nervous. I just thought he was acting a bit odd. But it was a good friend that said, I think he was nervous. I think you need to give him another chance. And I'm so glad I did. So don't be too hard on your first dates. We will continue next time with the subheading, Obey Your Instincts. Bye!